I think following from the conversations I had in the last video essay, something that I want to touch upon is symbolisms. Why it's so important to understand the influence that symbols and symbolism has had in the evolution of our species. Why that is so important, and how our symbols are changing today. Why they are changing today, in the sense of why do people that can influence the change of symbols, why they want symbols to change, and also why symbols are changing in this way and people are just accepting it. Why can't we as like a society be like, oh wait, I don't like that symbol, I don't like what it represents, let's get rid of it. So I'll start from the end and then go towards to what I was saying earlier, just off of memory. I think the reason why people want to include certain symbols and introduce them is because the society we have today profits off of conformity, off of what the masses are doing, because that's just what everyone will end up doing. It's a survival instinct. And we're in an age where all anyone can think of doing is making the most amount of products and making the most amount of money from those products, the most amount of profits, whatever means necessary. So the product can be an empty jar that someone will like to tell us has content inside of it, and we will buy it because we're unaware that there are really what's being sold is just the idea that we have what everyone else has. Style, sex, like stable sexual relationship, good food, access to nature and beauty and opportunity. I'm saying things off the top of my head that I would conform to because I have done that. But there's so much other stuff that people would conform to. Hatred is another thing people will conform to. People will conform to saying that they hate the same things as other people. Health is another thing people will conform to. Language is another thing people will conform to. And there's just a rabbit hole of how many things corporations would like to instrumentalize to use against us. Why haven't we done anything about it? Well, because another symbol that we've adapted and we've kind of digested is to kind of hate on the people who complain about working, to hate on laziness, to hate against people who don't contribute to society. But then that's where you have to stop and consider like the symbolism of the word, contributions to society. What does that even mean? Why is it that we ignore what the contributions are rather than focusing on whether they're good or bad? We ignore whether these contributions are good or bad for society because we think, well, a lot of money is being done, providing a lot of jobs, labor is important. And it's like, I may be part of the people, the proletariat. I might have my representation want to follow along that field. But it doesn't feel like Marxism was very proletariat. It felt a little bit like he was adapting to capitalism. It felt like communism was an adaptation. It was a composition of capitalism. It was like trying to be more analytical of capitalism. That's what it felt like. And wow, I remember reading, I remember watching an interview with Noam Chomsky about how he said that the standards of living during the Stalinist regime went up. But it's a terrible argument to use to convince people that Stalinism is an effective method of government. It's the same with capitalism. And people might provide arguments saying, oh, people are living better lives. People are benefiting, and like people's lives are getting better because of capitalism. And they're forgetting that the only thing that attributes people's lives getting better is how those people's lives circulate around labor and around jobs. People's lives only get better because their job pays more. People's lives only get better because there's more jobs. People's lives only get better because there's more access to jobs. There's more jobs to create. You can get paid to do whatever you want. That's so dumb. How does that attribute to society improving? How does it attribute to people getting better? Well, because people want money. What if you're becoming a worse person? What if your job is making you do bad things to people? Are there no considerations for your soul, for how you will be more miserable if you do worse things? It's like we don't listen, or we're not aware of how important it is to be a good person. And that's like not people's faults. Like people who do bad things, it's not their fault entirely that they do these bad things. It's just because of the symbolisms. Religion has a symbolic connotation with fanaticism, with murder, with colonialism. And the reason why it was so easy to instrumentalize religion is because it is the same way that capitalism is being instrumentalized for greed. It's the saying that, if you have the freedom to do whatever you want, to buy and sell whatever you want, it's up to you to benefit. And the same with religion. If you have the freedom to do your own goods and your own bads, no one else is at play here. It's you. You decide whether you go to heaven or hell. Then the people are going to instrumentalize that. Hey, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. If you don't support this kingdom, you're going to hell. If you don't get a job and support this industry, you will be poor. If you do anything illegal to betray the trade, you go to jail. It's like, what if I have to steal to survive? Well, in capitalism, it's wrong to steal, and in religion, it's wrong to steal. There might be correlations between them. And there's also consequences to both of them that are very similar. Capitalism has become a religion for people who think about nothing other than themselves. It's a way to try and it's a way to try and keep people from doing bad things without educating people that they shouldn't do bad things. It's all about incentive. But if you can break the system, which we've found out it is a broken system because people can do it, then there's the problem. You are just incentivizing people to find loopholes, because at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's all about yourself. And it's all about supporting yourself. And people can say, oh, but what if I'm making money to support other people? It's it's not your job. It's not your job to support other people financially. If people need money to survive, if they need food, if you see them on the street, don't be a dick, especially if you're in my position and you're privileged. Don't be a fucking asshole and not give to people, but I'm giving them money and that money is bad. It's it's what you do with money, and it's how you make money that's bad. Because the only way you can make money is if you contribute to the system. And especially with social media, especially with websites that are all about news, informing people, that's what's bad. Because you can make money misinforming people. That people pay you to misinform other people. That's just how it is nowadays. and people pay you to keep people's attention on the apps. So you might be a preacher, you might be someone that's all about informing the public, but the website you're on or the corporation that you represent, the sponsor, they might want you to just keep people stimulated, not have people disagree about certain things, to have people like continue fueling the system. And this is why communism is just hated by everyone. This is why if you ask anyone today what the definition of communism is, it's like impossible for them to come up with an actual definition for it. It's so like ostracized, and it's so invalidated as a political belief. And I think it sounds always a little bit like naive to hate on money, to hate on this, when like everything I own is because of money, all of my resources I have are because of my parents' money. But as easy as it's all been for me, it's also just as easy to denounce it, to say, I'm not gonna do it, like I'm not gonna agree with it. In time, I may be forced to sustain myself by having a job, and that's the problem. Like I can't live my life without conforming to the system, no matter how much I hate it. I can hate it with all my guts. I can be literally me right now, hating the system, hating every aspect of it, but it's almost like I need it to survive. And it goes far beyond just like food and shelter. It also goes further. It goes about like being a part of a community. If I don't contribute, I don't have a job, my community disowns me. And I think it is quite self-explanatory, the notion that we are becoming more and more focused on how to entertain ourselves, how to seek more pleasure, how to be more advanced as a species. But all that really means is, by advancement, I mean making it easier to be an animal without dying as an animal. I want to live as long as a god, but I want to indulge like an animal. I want to just stuff my face in tits and food and in cars, in not moving, like fucking transportation. Oh, give me a break. Like seriously, like all these cars, like I sound like a little kid, but like I don't even want to go into that much detail about the problem and the ignorance of owning a car. It's fun, as it's a fucking genius. It's a technological ingenuity to build a fucking motor that powers a 2-ton piece of metal. That's genius. But you're not the fucking dude who built it. You're the motherfucker driving it. It's also even more genius to assume that you're an intellectual because you bought something that other people spent more hours making into more precise detail than the other things that people have. It's like, oh yeah, but my Porsche has like it's a V8, like it's got more engine, it's got more blah, 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 blah. Great. You didn't build that. And someone would say, yeah, but I earned my money and then I bought it. But it's like, so then like your contributions to society translate into what you own. What about Jeff Bezos? What about Elon Musk? I don't consider them people who've contributed to society positively, but they could buy anything that you want to buy, any fucking status symbol that you want to buy. They practically own it. And then this is another thing that I want to talk about. It's like we can hate on Elon, we can hate on Jeff, we can hate on Mark, but these are just the people we know. The problem with the system is that it's also really good at hiding its abusers and hiding the culprits that propagate it. The system has been also designed to keep people from realizing who's holding the system. It's supposedly the government. It's not the government. Like, it's not. So people who own the money, like, where do they get their money from? Well, they're either Nepo babies or they have just engaged in some form of like neo-colonialism, just extracting resources from poor, fragile countries, extracting whatever kind of resource they can. It doesn't have to be actual minerals or earth. It can be anything. Extracting it, manipulating really poor and desperate people who want a job, who need a job, and also like not just shame on the corporations, but shame to the people who also desperately take these jobs. Like if you don't see the problem with having to conform to working like a conveyor belt to support your family and kids, if you don't see the problem with that and you're just trying to make money and like, oh, I don't really care about all that politics bullshit. I'm just trying to hustle to provide for my family. I don't have time for the politics. Like you are the problem as well. Like you are also to blame. Like I'm not going to pity you, and you can call me a victim blamer, but I'm not going to pity you for engaging in a system that's harming you. Like you have the choice not to do it. You have the choice to revolt, and you could tell me, oh, but like my life is on the line, my family's life on the line, I'm going to die. Then like, yeah, but you're like, are you trying to argue with me that you would rather be a terrible person than to die at the hands of a system that is killing you? But then by surviving, you're just killing other people, and you're encouraging the exploitation of people like you. So you're just thinking for yourself. So yes, shame on you. Like you have no right to complain if you are part of it. So like, tell me where the contradiction is. Like, poor immigrants, like, oh, shame, like, oh, like, they have to work these terrible, poopy jobs. Oh, like, no, like, it's a shame that they're not educated to know what the problem with what they're doing is. And this is why people in, like, rich first world countries hate immigrants. Because it's like, there's like a feeling of, like, who do you think you are, making jobs less accessible for the people living there, and then complaining about how you're treated. It's almost like you're not aware that you're also part of the problem. And it's like these poor people, these immigrants, these refugees who go seeking these really easy, like really poorly paid jobs. They're also definitely going to be the people that are most likely to complain about capitalism. But they're just so uneducated because of capitalism, because of where they're from, they haven't received an education, that they're inclined to just not care about it. They're inclined to just like stick to the formula and to get a job and to work whatever you need to work to get that money. And like, I'm not also now hopping on the racist anti-immigration train. Immigration is beautiful. It's a product of globalization. Globalization does not have to be a form of capitalism. It doesn't have to be a component. Globalization is just a natural beauty of the world. I think there's been too much globalization. I think there's been Americanization in South Korea, in Japan, in these places like India as well. These places that have just suffered at the hands of colonialization and have not had enough time to build a strong foundation to like rely on themselves. They have to rely on all forms of like culture, money, and capitalism from the US to like keep their system alive. And like there's just so many people who hate that in South Korea. There's so many people who hate that in Japan. And in India, I'm not sure how the like people's culture is in India, but they have a caste system. So there's also a lot of like lack of like a critical awareness to also change their system, because like, I don't really care, like caste system, it doesn't matter for them. But you also see a lot of Indians being pro-capitalist when they leave India. These rich Indians, they move and they provide a lot of labor to other countries. They're very intellectual people, but they're not really critically aware that they're also products of the problem. They're not, and like, the reason I would love to tell the whole world to just like start being more local based and more community local based is not so that people don't actually leave and ever interact with each other, but it's so that you kind of gain an awareness of like the importance of like understanding people's problems, and not just like thinking that you are a good person because like you've provided jobs to people who you don't even know. And you don't even know like what their real problems are. And I like to think of it as this way of this like idea of this rich person provides these jobs to all these people, unaware that the people's problem is that they have a job and they don't have time for themselves. They don't have time to engage with their family and teach their family and to like support their family from the inside, like teaching their kids how to be more critically aware and like good, better people. They're not there to teach them that. And I think it is a problem that we just kind of like make money off of like other people on other parts of the world who don't know us, who don't understand how we're profiting off of them, and they just think, oh, like I just have a poor job because I'm uneducated. It's like, no, that's not it. It's also neo-colonialism. People just like finding ways to have their little first world business gain a lot of consumers, but not a lot of resources from those consumers besides the money that they make is actually going into the labor that you're demanding from the people making your product. And then this labor is just located in a third world country where people can't complain about the problems. And then, I remember hearing this kind of like argument when I was like 7 years old, and it hasn't changed. Like I've heard people complain about this very same issue, and like just thought, oh, really? Like Africa is just like that poor? Like people just all have to work in like these terrible like sweatshops? China is just full of these kids that are that poor? And it's like people just laugh about it. Like, Chinese person working in a sweatshop, they have to kill themselves. It's like, holy fuck, like the amount of shit you would get if like a breaking news article like was posted was published in the US about like a terrible factory condition, and you just laugh about it. Like you would get so much condemnation, but because you don't know or recognize these people and you're not familiar with them, you just pass it, like you'd make a meme out of it. And it's sad because we could very quickly as a society work together, and we could very quickly just like solve this ordeal without shaming and like murdering people. We can solve this ordeal. We don't have to kill people to do it. I think people are gonna die and people will be killed because there's just reached a point where like the people suffering now just feel like no one really cares. There's never been any mercy for them. People are just doing things to make money, and that's just so inconsiderate, and it's so disgusting, and it's so like inhumane not to realize that you're making money at the hands of like other people's lives. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like this is the actual reality. You're making money, and it's only because other people are dying because they don't have enough money. But it's not that they don't have enough money, it's that like they don't need the money, and you don't need the money either. Like, and none of this is even contributing to society positively. All of this is degrading society. It's turning people against each other. It's creating more division. It's just like a loophole. It's a fucking feedback loop. And I don't know how long I've been going on talking about this, but like I don't know who needs to hear this, because the people who are frustrated and are willing to like kill the people on the 0.1%, the people who are willing to revolt, it's like, yeah, they need to hear me tell them, or hear anybody tell them, I don't think you should be killing people, even though it may look like your life is on the line if you don't act soon. Murdering people is always going to have collateral damage. There's always going to be people who, like, your murder is not going to help people understand anything. It's just going to make people more scared, more pissed off, more enthusiastic about their beliefs. And that's what all of this has been doing for me recently. And then I've just kind of snapped finally and been like, you know what, all right, I'm not gonna jump onto this like revolutionary fanaticism. I'm gonna try and be a little bit more appreciative and loving of everyone, including the people who are like doing us wrong, who are doing us wrong. Everyone is doing each other wrong. Everyone is suffering. There's not one person on this earth that's in a capitalist system that is not suffering or causing other people to suffer. And like, suffering is inevitable, but I'd phrase it differently. I'd call it pain. I wouldn't call it suffering. Everyone goes through pain. That's inevitable. But this like just miserable suffering, and then like it's also like just the like this like delusion that like capitalism will ease the suffering is just not true. Like, and we have to move past that. It's not true. It's bullshit. And it's a lie that's being fed to us by people who don't know any better, because they're also suffering. And you should not hold them to like these like evil, like, oh, the Jew Illuminati, like, secret standard. Like, yeah, sure, it's like a monarchy of nepotism. Sure, it's just being passed down hereditary by generation. You know, the rich keep within their confines just as much as the Jews keep in their confines. But I don't think you should be blaming them, because like they live in this shitty system. It's necessary that they do this so that they can stay happy and alive. The people who aren't doing it, it's so unfortunate that they didn't have this. But like, if they did have it, they would just be replacing another family. So it's almost like the answer isn't to just kill these people and then like replace them with like nicer people, because that's just not how it works. That's how religion became this stain and this this manuscript of indoctrination and just bullshit. The reason that it is that is because people who had the most amount of power thought that society would not function unless this power is maintained and kept in check and then controlled. It's like there's no faith in anarchy. There's no faith that people will just do the right things if they know how to do it. And that's the important part. People don't know how to do the right thing. I don't know how to do the right thing. I'm making a YouTube video. Like, I don't know if this is the right thing. If I was Christ, I would not know what to do, because like I would love to go to the prostitutes and to the homeless and just kind of gather them around and build like a unity of love. But it feels like I can do so much more than that. And then it prompts me to think, why does it matter if I do more? Like, we are going to become extinct at the hands of this system, and people are not going to learn immediately. Capitalism will not be abolished in my lifetime. That's for certain. But then it's just like, this is another thinking that I have. Like, I've been brought to think that this is the reality. This is the conclusion. That I just have to try my best and then hope that the next generation will also try their best, and then we'll get somewhere eventually. And it's like, I don't think so. Like, I could make this YouTube video, and if all 7.9 billion, if not even that many people need to watch it, if like a certain amount of people watched it and just kind of said, you know what, let's unanimously agree that let's stop doing this. I'm going to stop joining the military and killing people. I'm going to stop supporting one side of the argument and like going against the other. Just like stop arguing, you know? If I could put it simply, I think the most effective political policy that I would enact right now to stop this fucking bloodshed, this misery, this constant suffering, it would be to have the whole world, every country, unanimously stop everything they're doing, like completely, every job, every occupation, every like drive that people have, everything. And then for just a day, maybe not the whole day, maybe I'm being excessive, just hold hands and just like walk around and like everything is open. Everything must be open. Everything must be free. Everything must be open. Just abandon this idea of profits, theft, ownership. Abandon it just for a day. And then, you know, after all the day after, people might be like, oh, you know, my store got robbed, my car got destroyed, my house got burned down. You can say that this might happen, but like already this mindset that you have, oh, but the damage this will cause, people are going to be evil. This mindset is what preludes to people doing it anyways. So if you were to really like get the whole population to say, hey, you know, instead of like stealing, instead of burning down houses, instead of robbing people out of anger, if we could come up with a solution to not have people be so angry at the world and angry at other people for them to do these things like steal, rob, and burn and murder, the solution could very well be to stop making the exploitation of people the common theatric, the common rhetoric of today. Just stop exploiting people and then like have the whole world kind of come to this understanding. And then it's like I think in essence, I'd be asking people to just let's restart. Let's just drop this idea that like we're society is being held up by capitalism. Let's drop this assumption that like without it, people are just all the buildings are gonna fall on us on like on some Fight Club bullshit. Everyone's gonna go crazy and murder each other. Like just instinct is just gonna get let loose once the rational capitalism gets dethroned. It's like no, that's a fear that capitalists want you to believe. It's not their fault that they fear this. It's not their fault that this could happen. But it is their responsibility to acknowledge that that is not the objective truth. That is not the case. That is not that's not the reality. And I could even argue that we've gone how many thousands of years with this class conflict of like trying to figure out how society should progress. And we haven't really just said like, what if we just stopped and like, like looked at each other for a second? Like everyone, man, woman, children, elderly, non-binary, whoever you conform, whatever group you identify with. And I genuinely think that to everyone's surprise, restarting will save more lives and bring about more long-term inherent freedom than trying to like bit by bit bring about this revolution, bit by bit trying to bring about equality, like putting in the right policy so that in 10 years it gets put into place and we can start worrying about globalization in 5 years, or like in the next 20 years every car will be electric. Like bit by bit, guys, come on, a little bit of patience here, because even though you have to mine cobalt and like destroy the terrain and use coal powered machines to harvest these resources, and also make people in third world countries harvest these resources themselves only for them not to even use them, so that they gain a couple cents on the dollar. It's like I'm certain, like absolutely objective truth, stopping for a second just to relax is the ideal policy that we should enact right now, so that we can like get moving again, so that we can actually start moving upwards. We need to like start this. We need to restart. We need to absolutely restart. And this really sounds like I'm kind of edging along the lines of genocide and like, complete human extinction. But if we don't do it ourselves, the planet will do it for us. And something will do it for us. Someone that's lost their will for being compassionate and understanding, or seeing the opportunity that human beings can have to change. Someone will just lose their lid, or the earth will lose its lid and just blow up on us, and we will become extinct. And then in a few thousand years, another species will arise, will develop a very beautiful way at perceiving the world, like some kind of consciousness, and then they too will go through this great filter, this wall where they have to pass, where it's all right, we're an amazing species, but we either have to like move past this extreme capability as a species to do so many things. We either have to keep moving past this acknowledgement, or we settle in the acknowledgement that we're amazing, and we reward our intelligence with all of these stimulants, because we're so smart. We know how to like keep the body satisfactory and keep the desires of our inner animal, to keep it qualmed and calm. It's like we've stopped evolving. We've stopped evolving as a species. We've now reached half animal, half consciousness. And I would go so far to say is that there is going to be an inevitable trend where we go back down to animal, and we're doing it like to this day. We're murdering each other, and we're starving each other, and we're stealing from each other. It's very animalistic, if you ask me. The whole sense of capitalism seems to be this kind of animal field, an animal farm. It just, like, it's all like contradictions. So when someone tells me, are you crazy, anarchism? Bro, the whole world will just become animals. It's like we are, like, what do you mean like, what? You're answering your own question. You're like proving to me that it is the viable solution. We will evolve, but we cannot if we are still being prisoners of our mind and our body. More specifically, our body in the hedonist sense. We just have to, like, really, like, not take this. We have to seriously not take this system so seriously. We have to seriously just, like, drop the game. Stop this game that we're playing. We're playing a fucking game. You're playing a game right now by determining whether this is going to change your mind or not. It's like, who are you? Who are you as a conscious being to wear this, to indulge in these things? Who are you to then say that you are not an animal, that you are your own person, that I am myself, I make my own decisions? It's like, then why aren't you naked, Well, but that's what an animal would do. Really? Like, an animal would be naked? Yes, dude, an animal would be naked. Okay. Do you think that's the worst part about an animal, the fact that they're naked? No, actually, I think the worst part would be that they kill each other and they don't, and they're very distinct, they are divided amongst themselves. Oh, really? Can you name me any animal that's like a cannibalistic animal? Well, like, have you ever seen monkeys, bro? Like, dude, they just tear each other apart for, like, dominance. And then I would tell them, yeah, that's true. So, we do the same thing as monkeys? Oh, yeah, but, like, dude, like, we're so much cleaner, we're so much more sophisticated, we live longer, we understand each other, we can communicate. So then why don't we communicate? Why don't we use our words? Why are we killing each other? Because, like, dude, like, just some animals, just like some humans just, like, are, like, have screws loose. Some humans are insane and are, like, permanently insane, are, like, destined to be evil because they just, like, they have all the opportunity to be evil, so they'll do it. Oh, okay. So do you think animals have all the opportunity to be evil? Oh, yeah, absolutely. They have no laws. They can just do whatever they want. Okay. So even with our laws, why are we still behaving like animals? Like, what is the law done to prevent us from continuing to be animals? We haven't really gone anywhere, have we? Even with all these little rules and walls and buildings and jackets and phones and media, we still kill each other. We still, like, and just that alone, just the fact that we kill each other, is enough for me to say, okay, I don't like this system because it's not teaching anyone anything. We are not advancing as a society because we are becoming more panicky, we're becoming more animalistic. And all for what? So that I live, like, another extra 30 years because of science and because of advancement? Like, that's bullshit too. Like, I probably have cancer from the fucking the destruction that we've caused to our ozone layer, causing the radiation rays of UV light to harmfully enter my skin. I'm probably gonna get cancer at like 40. What about, like, all the other shit that too? I could get diabetes soon enough. I could develop the worst amount of, like, heart problems because of all the microplastics I eat. On average, a human being eats a fucking credit card a week. Like, 5 grams of plastic. Lame ass statistic too. Like, what are you gonna do with that? You're not gonna do shit with that statistic. And, like, for what as well? So then you can tell me that, like, I'm not gonna enjoy things as much. I'm not gonna have as much opportunity to enjoy things. It's like, I'm not saying we just destroy every object in the world, that we destroy everything and we just become naked and like survive. It's like, no, like, I'm gonna keep my shit, but like, like, just like, we need to like slowly, because I say this patiently, we need to slowly stop what we're doing. And if anything, I'm gonna rephrase that. We need to quickly stop what we're doing so that we can slowly progress again. Because we're just doing way too quick. We're being way too quick about things. Catch me outside.